Hi, my name is Danielle Wyant, and this is my Adolescent Themes in Film project focusing on the movie 13. 13 came out in 2003. The movie follows two teen girls named Tracy and Evie. Tracy is the main character, the blonde in both of the pictures, who starts as a shy, unpopular girl who wishes to fit in. She starts to dress more like the most popular girl in school, Evie. In doing so, she catches her attention and they become close friends. From then on, being best friends with Evie leads Tracy down a risky path where she shoplifts, does drugs, gets piercings, sneaks out, stops going to school, and engages in sexual activity. In both the pictures that I have on the screen, the on the left in the top left picture is Tracy and on the right is Evie, and in the bottom right, the same. And then the picture on the top left is the movie poster, which I feel gives like a good idea of the movie's like theme and ideas. And I wanted to give a fun fact based on the film. The film is loosely based on the actress who plays Evie and her experiences as a 13-year-old. One of the concepts I wanted to focus on was families. One thing that plays a big part in the movie is families of each of the kids. Tracy's parents got divorced early in her life, and she only lives with her mom and has a strained relationship with her father and her mother. As we know, parenting styles take part in how we develop and act. And since Tracy's mom, Mel, had a different parenting style, we know that Tracy is prone to be more impulsive, more likely to be involved in drug use and sexual intercourse, which rings true in the movie. Evie also had a guardian with the same parenting style, which was indifferent, which she was also involved in risky and both of the behaviors that Tracy was. And I wanted to touch on the fact that we talked about in class, which experiencing conflict and divorce when you're a kid and paired with instability and strained quality relationships with adults, which Tracy has all three of those things, leads to adolescent problems, which rings true as well. Another concept I wanted to focus on was peer groups. Tracy and Evie are both part of a clique, which is a small, tightly knit group of two friends of the same sex and around the same age, which is both of them. And as you can see from the picture on the right, there were three people in the group, but after a while, Evie kicked the one girl out because she was closer with Tracy, so it just ended up being the two of them. And before Tracy and Evie became friends, Evie was the reference group for Tracy, so who Tracy was trying to be like and was comparing herself to, which also we have in reference group, a group against which an individual compares himself or herself, which Tracy was doing, and that led her being friends with Evie because she was trying to change herself in the way that she dressed. So since she's trying to imitate Evie, since she was the most popular girl, to receive crowd reinforcement, which is also one way that our behavior is affected by crowds. For peer groups part two, I wanted to focus on select concepts that are really relevant in the movie. So, selection, the notion that adolescents are attracted to one another because of their initial similarity. I think this is why Evie was drawn to Tracy, since Tracy was trying to imitate her and be similar to her. That's why Evie noticed her. And then socialization, the notion that adolescents become similar to one another because friends influence each other. I think this is what the case was for Tracy because before they were friends, Tracy wasn't involved in any risky behavior. But then as soon as she became friends with Evie, she started engaging in the same behavior that Evie had been previously. And then I wanted to touch on at the end of the movie, there is a huge monumental act of relational aggression, which is an act intended to harm another through the manipulation of his or her relationships with others. So, what happens at the end of the movie is that Evie's guardian found out everything that was going on with Evie and Tracy, and then Evie told her guardian that it was all Tracy's fault. Everything was Tracy's idea. Tracy essentially encouraged her to do this behavior when it was the opposite and manipulated her guardian into telling Tracy's mom, Mel, about the situation, and Tracy was blamed. And so it blows up and it's a huge thing, and they're no longer friends at the end of the movie. And then lastly, adolescent portrayals in film. Adolescents are portrayed as very rebellious and risky throughout the film. They're portrayed in extremely negative and unrealistic light. I would say that their behavior, for the most part, is extremely exaggerated. That's not how most teens are. It's definitely not a universal experience, but definitely bits and pieces are relevant, such as like cliques and reference groups. But for the majority, it's a very exaggerated portrayal because most kids go to school every day, aren't skipping school, aren't doing drugs daily and engaging in all of this risky behavior. But instead, I would say that most kids experience it a few times. And the film also was made in 2000, early 2000s, and it definitely gives off like the early 2000s era and influence on that as well.